Keep in mind, we are just reviewing 4 environmental risk assessments, and there are several more available for you at estrategist.com. The ERA is not designed to show people what they're doing wrong. It's designed to get everyone on the same page about the environmental exposures impacting their operations. Common environmental exposures impacting manufacturers are air emissions from painting and plating lines, ovens, boilers, reactors. Types of emissions include carbon dioxide, nitrous oxide, sulfur dioxide, mercury, particulate, such as heavy metals and dust. Manufacturers can have VOCs, which are volatile organic compounds, spills from underground and or above ground storage tanks, no secondary containment for above ground storage tanks, leaks from elevator hydraulic fluid storage tanks, waste storage handling practices, hazardous waste materials such as drums of spent solvents, acids, caustics, paint, heavy metal, particulate, dust from baghouses or electrostatic precipitators, sludges from wastewater treatment operations, raw materials stored and utilized in large quantities, like acids, bases, compressed gases, including cyanide and hydrogen chloride, diesel fuel and lubricant oils, flammable paints and solvents, drum cleaning, products cleaning and chemical treatments, such as wastewaters generally contain heavy metals and oil and grease and organic compounds. You can have unknown abandoned underground storage tanks, in-ground sumps and pits. How about unsealed truck ramps? If you have clients with truck ramps that are not sealed or have cracks in the pavement, then over time contaminants can collect in the truck ramp and leach into the ground. You want to make sure businesses with truck ramps have a truck ramp maintenance program. Old and or unknown landfills and lagoons. Remember surface lagoons that you used to see alongside a lot of manufacturing plants? They used to put the wastewater in the lagoons, and then heavy metals would sink to the bottom, and this was a form of wastewater treatment. These lagoons are no longer allowed, and what a lot of businesses did was just fill in their old lagoons and never did any cleaning out before they filled them in. Out of sight, out of mind, right? How about uncertainties with historical use and conditions of the property, electroplating baths and sludge, paint sludge, inadequate or no auditing of hazardous and non-hazardous waste haulers, transporter, and disposal companies, obsolete and remote equipment storage or boneyards where contaminants can percolate into the soil and groundwater, improperly maintained paint booth filters, nuisance odors, adverse reactions and interactions of chemical compounds that accidentally commingle during a fire, refrigeration systems, no emergency response training for employees, halon releases from fire suppression equipment, old septic systems, spills and leaks from storage and handling of loading and unloading of material containers such as drums, totes, or bags from vessels and or rail cars, utilities that cross manufacturers' properties, corroded wastewater and stormwater sewers. This is a common exposure where waste being sent by a manufacturer down a wastewater or storm sewer can corrode and cause leaks. We've all heard how old and dilapidated our infrastructure is, so it's more susceptible to loss from this type of exposure. Improper characterization of hazardous waste, non-compliance with SARA Title III or Community Right to Know reporting requirements, natural resource damages, asbestos or lead-containing materials, silica, mold, vapor intrusion, and the list goes on and on. But as you can see, manufacturers are impacted by countless environmental exposures. We have an environmental loss example number 2. While moving a large metal coil, a forklift operator hit a hydrofluoric acid above ground storage tank, releasing dangerous fumes into the neighboring community. Area residents and businesses were evacuated and several people were treated at the local hospital for fume inhalation. Claims for bodily injury and business interruption topped $94,000. Environmental impairment liability coverage could have covered the manufacturer for this environmental exposure. Example number 3. A manufacturer stored baghouse dust containing heavy metals in an uncovered dumpster behind the facility. Whenever it rained, stormwater mixed with the dust, forming a slurry which ran off-site. Soil testing of a nearby stream bank showed high levels of lead, cadmium, and mercury. The contaminant source was determined to be the stormwater runoff from the dumpster. The manufacturer was responsible for cleanup costs and natural resource damages exceeding $250,000. Environmental impairment liability coverage could have covered the manufacturer. Do you have any clients with dumpsters? Dumpsters are a collection receptacle for everyone's waste, and if someone illegally disposes of waste in your dumpster, you are responsible for disposal unless you catch the guilty party. How about the residential contractor that has an empty dumpster dropped off at a job site on Friday, and when they come back on Monday, it's full of old TVs, furniture, paint cans, computers. The whole neighborhood decided to use the contractor's dumpster to get rid of their waste. If you have a dumpster, you need a dumpster security program where only authorized personnel are able to gain access. Example number 6, a manufacturer stored a drum of caustic chemicals next to a drum of highly reactive acid. When a forklift disturbed the drums, their contents were released, causing a violent reaction. Fumes spread over the neighboring properties and destroyed all of the plants at the nursery next door. The nursery owner submitted a claim totaling more than $35,000 for business interruption and loss of goods. Environmental impairment liability insurance could have covered this loss. Example number 10. Over the weekend, vandals climbed the fence at a chemical distribution facility. Besides breaking a few windows, they also damaged a valve on a 10,000-gallon tank of chemicals. The damaged valve leaked until Monday morning when it was discovered by facility employees. While most of the contents of the tank just needed to be removed and disposed of from the contaminated area, local environmental officials required subsurface testing of soil and groundwater, so total cost reached $90,000. Environmental impairment liability coverage could have protected the manufacturer from this environmental liability. Section 3 of the ERA for manufacturers, we go through the 3 primary benefits of environmental liability insurance, and then we review the environmental insurance appropriate for manufacturers to consider as part of their risk transfer strategy. Since manufacturing facilities are fixed site facilities, environmental impairment liability coverage is a primary coverage. If you buy and sell businesses, property transfer coverage. Manufacturers need to get their raw materials and they need to get their finished goods to customers, so transportation pollution liability coverage needs to be evaluated. How do manufacturers store raw materials and finished goods? In underground or above ground storage tanks? Then we have to look at who the manufacturers are doing business with. Who are the vendors they use in their business operations? Third-party transporters, then you'd want to make sure the proper transportation pollution liability coverage is in force and not just an MCS 90 endorsement. Contractors' pollution liability coverage for contractors of all kinds hired by manufacturers. All manufacturers should have a working relationship with environmental engineers, and so confirming the proper professional liability coverage and limits is imperative for the environmental strategist to do. This concludes our review of environmental risk assessment resource used by environmental strategists to educate clients and prospects on the environmental exposures impacting their operations so you can all get on the same page. One reason most businesses have resisted addressing their environmental exposures is because they have been told environmental exposures impacting their operations are so confusing and complicated you need experts to assist you. They're told they're going to have to change the way they think and operate. As an environmental strategist, you are delivering a long overdue message, and that is that environmental exposures are another issue a business must deal with, and you have a way to show them how to seamlessly and effortlessly blend environmental risk management into their current business model. In our next session, we're going to learn about developing and executing an environmental management strategy to assist our clients to drive their growth and profits in today's business environment. As the environmental strategist, you are the team leader coaching your clients on allocating their environmental exposures.